was late in the game, and Brock Purdy had a scramble to pick up a first down that basically iced it. And I don't think Jimmy G really makes that play. It was a tough scramble. He got out of pressure. He went to the line of scrimmage. He slid. He was smart enough, headsy enough to put the ball in front when he slid. And so he got the first down by a half yard and iced the game. I mean, that's kind of an X factor that Purdy is kind of bringing to the table that maybe Jimmy doesn't have that. I don't know. Jimmy's been there before. He's won. He's got some rings. He saw Tom Brady do it. He was a throw away from winning his own Super Bowl against Kansas City. So we're going to see. Obviously, it's a wait and see. We're going to see. He's going to have a chance. He's going to have a home playoff game, and somebody's going to have to come in there and beat them and beat the defense, which obviously it doesn't look like anybody can do.
I mean, Groundhog Day for Jimmy G. He's like, really? Again? You've got to be kidding me. I was just about to get crazy paid. But he'll get crazy paid somewhere.
Yeah, I still think he's going to
be.
be a starting quarterback somewhere in this league. It's not going to be in San Francisco next year, most likely. So,
well, do we think? Are we already writing this off? Are we already writing the Purdy Chronicles? I mean, I'm just curious about how far we're going to go down this wormhole.
That's what I'm saying.
Look, I think if Brock Purdy fails or kind of crashes or comes back down to earth, it's going to be like, okay, great. It really makes it easy for us in San Francisco to turn to Trey Lance. We did pay all this draft capital for him. He did kind of fluky get injured at the start of the year that kind of derailed any progress. Look, San Francisco might be in the Philly spot right now if Trey Lance had stayed healthy all year and developed like everybody thought. So, yes, they're not going to bring Jimmy G back next year, especially as well as Purdy played. It's obvious that he can be a starter, so it's great to have someone like that in your back pocket as the backup. Should he go on a magical run and win the Super Bowl? Yeah, he'll probably enter 2023 as a starter, like we said. But San Francisco's in great shape in the quarterback position.
And what about Trey Lance now? I mean, Rich is calling in at 9:20. It's his show. He's calling in. But what about Trey Lance now? I mean, what about the fact that we've got a quarterback controversy, which I love because it's fun and it's a Friday. But is there any chance that Trey Lance just found himself out of a really good job?
Always a chance.
Yeah, always a chance. I mean, what are the chances that Brock Purdy goes 9-0 this year and wins a Super Bowl? Small, but could happen. And I think that's really the only way that he ends up being the 49ers starter next year. But it's going to be Trey Lance's team like it was heading into this year. And, you know, barring a miracle, a title run, it'll be his team going into next year. And Jimmy G will be where? I have no idea. Jimmy G will be somewhere else, either starting or a high-level backup.
So I think San Francisco's looking at least there's going to be competition next year, you'd have to think, between the two of them.
Sure.
So good spot to be in, I guess.
Did Rich tell you when Jimmy G got hurt? I'm like, didn't hurt his face, did he?
Yeah.
He's okay, right?
He always comes
was very
in the next
salty
day.
when he told that story.
It's very funny. He comes in the next day and always looks at us and goes, guys, how am I supposed to react to this? My wife says,
it was
at least it's not his face.
Look, you are an Emmy award-winning journalist, Suzy. So
I am.
and you're asking a question that probably wasn't the first question asked, because everyone's going to ask one question. You're like, well, let me go around and let me find another angle to the story. So that's where your mind went, I think, and I don't see anything
TJ,
wrong
I'm
with
just
that.
out there representing the fans. I'm just asking the questions that they want to know the answers to. I am trying to find a unique angle.
I understand. That's
how
I took
Jimmy
it.
G's face? I think we all wanted to know. I think Chris wanted to know.
Well, Chris definitely wanted to know.
He did. Is it too soon to ask if there's a quarterback controversy in San Francisco, Rich? I know you love a controversy.
So. Well, you're right. But Dan asked me that question earlier, DP, about the future of it. And it really does depend on how Purdy, how well he plays when the chips are down. Again, the year that they made the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo, if you remember, that was they had a playoff game at home against Minnesota, and they essentially ran the ball every down. They had very little confidence, and much was made about that, about how Garoppolo handed the ball off the entirety of the second half, and that they basically had their hands on 10-2 on the wheel and a foot on the brake during a playoff game with their quarterback. And we'll see how they play it with Purdy, if they feel comfortable enough, if he is going to wing it around if they need to. And again, Debo will be back. We'll see how it does play out between now and the rest of the season. But if he goes on a deep playoff run with them, and the locker room falls in love with him, and they dig him, and they also see how he can perform when he's got a full season under his belt, practicing and training camp reps with the ones and things like that. Then maybe they do keep him there, and Trey Lance is the backup, and they go into battle like that because, again, and it's a similar situation that's playing out with the Jets. If the GM who drafted the quarterback highly and the coach who was attached at the hip of the highly drafted quarterback, if those guys are not on the hot seat because they missed on the quarterback who was drafted so highly, or the quarterback they drafted so highly has now been surpassed by somebody on the roster that was either, in the case of Purdy, drafted last, or the case of Mike White, undrafted and acquired elsewhere by the team. I know he was drafted by the Cowboys, but the Jets didn't draft him. If the owner's fine with it and the coach and the general manager have a winning team around them, then they'll make the move. I mean, there's no sacred cows. There really isn't in the NFL. So if Purdy goes on a run and they trust him and they can open the offense up and he might win a playoff game for him, then why can't he be the starter in 2022? I mean, it's a realistic possibility as we're sitting here one game into Week 15.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.